And let's go ahead and start out today's show with a little money chat. Short-term financing. Mortgage is my arena, so I thought I'd bring in a little bit about mortgages during the money chat today. Short-term financing is financing that you're going to keep for a short term. Usually your short-term financing is going to be anywhere from 3 to 12 months, just depending on what you're trying to accomplish. And there's great opportunities out there for short-term financing, and it's when you're not in a position for some traditional loan and you're just looking at that short-term mortgage that you can have until you're going to get into your permanent financing. Now, in the options I want to talk about today, it is for primary, second home, or investor loans are available. So if you're looking at not living in the property, that's okay. A lot of times the short-term financing is for owner occupancy, but there are some great programs out there for you as investors. Conforming loan limits and loan size depending on the area that you're purchasing in, but here in our market, $506,000 is the maximum loan amount to stay within the conforming loan limits. Property type, they're looking at doing short-term financing for residential only. So that's going to be 1 to 4 units or condos. And credit score, minimum credit score requirement is 660. So you can still have some challenges and be in the 660 credit bracket range. But anything under that, you'll need to work through that process to get that score increased. And if you've listened to some of my money chats before, I've got a lot of credit tips that can help you in the short term on repairing your credit. So you can always ask me about that as well. Loan to value, or a maximum that they'll loan up to, is a 75% loan to value, or meaning a 25% equity position. Now, sometimes there are exceptions to that where they'll go up to an 80%, meaning that you've got a 20% equity position into the home. Now, that equity position can actually be secured against the existing property, or they can do it against another property. So it doesn't have to be secured against that one. You can actually have the equity position in another property. And you can also gift equity as a collateral as well. So if you're purchasing maybe as a first-time home buyer and you're looking at getting a property that has a little bit of distress, and that's one of the areas you can use the short-term financing, and you don't have that 25% down payment, if you have family members, your parents that are willing to gift the collateral against the equity in their home, that is an option that you can look at as well. So here's some reason that you might be utilizing short-term financing. Bridge financing, sometimes you just need a little more time to sell your current home. And in this market right now, there's a lot of activity going on out there. The market slowed down a little tiny bit, which is making it a little bit better for buyers out there. But if you're trying to sell your current home and you need to sell that for the equity to purchase your new home, it gets really tricky unless you're selling that home first and then being not having to go contingent on your new home. But that's not always a convenient thing that people want to do. You actually are trying to sell at the same time as purchasing a new one, and that's where it gets challenged in this market. So the short-term financing can be a good option to bridge the equity that you have in your current home to utilize for the equity of your new home, and then you sell your current home after you've closed on the new purchase. And that's where the short-term financing is going to come into place. You'll pay that short-term financing off after you sell your existing home. And this way you can get in without going contingent. If you don't have the equity in your current home, but you own other real estate, or again, utilizing gift equity as collateral is acceptable. Now, fix and flip, if you have your eye on an investment property that needs a little tender, loving care, and because of that need of tender, loving care, traditional financing is not going to lend on that property. They want to have this work done on the home before they'll lend money. There's a lot of property still out there in that distressed arena that would not pass a typical appraisal process through your standard financing. So short-term financing can enable you to get in there and purchase this home, do all of the remodeling, rehab that you want to do, and then you could actually flip it, or you can turn it into a permanent financing option where you're going to keep that property as an investor, or maybe you're doing this as your primary residence as well. Again, the purpose of the short-term financing in this situation is to get the work completed, and then you can get into traditional financing. Spec construction for contractors or builders that may be listening to my show today, to secure financing through the traditional bank. Maybe there's some options that there are not the options available for you. And so the spec construction financing on a short term, again, is another option. Now, for short term financing, you're going to pay higher interest rates than you would for traditional financing. So you could be looking at 10 to 12% in your interest rates. But again, this is an option if there's not something else available and you're going to hold on to it for a short period of time. The fees are going to run anywhere from 1 to 5%, depending on the risk of your qualification and the package that you're presenting. The payments are based on interest only. Turn times, typically you're looking at maybe a couple days, 48-hour turn time, so it's pretty quick process for you. No seasoning, next day value can be utilized when you're turning that financing over, and you can also use it if you're looking at purchasing at the auction house. Is another option to utilize your short-term financing. So if you have any questions, please feel free to pick up the phone and give the show a call. 1-855-400-1150. Again, that's 1-855-400-1150, or online at themoneyhour.com. And are you a realtor that's offering staging? How do you manage the logistics of storing, managing, and moving those home furnishings, and from the staging to the design projects? You don't have to do this if you utilize a company that I'm going to talk with next, and that is Staging and Design Network, right here at 1150 a.m. KKNW after this short break.